And so I will go ahead and introduce myself. I'm one of the organizers of the 11th Congress, and my name is Lily Falconer. I live in the Sonoma Valley, which is in the North San Francisco Bay Delta bioregion, ancestral home of the Coast Miwok, Wapo, and Southern Pomo people. And I'm really happy to be here. I'll pass it to Carrie.
Hey everybody, I'm Carrie Crisp, one of the organizers of the Congress. I live here in the Bay Delta bioregion, homelands of the Ramaytush Ohlone, and it's very beautiful. About 50% of California's surface water drains through the bay. Super important flyway for birds as well. Um, that's it for now. I guess I'll pass it over to Bill.
Thanks, Carrie. Hey, Bill Bowie. I'm with R3.0 and I'm participate on the organizing team with Lily and Carrie and Claire and Brandon and others. And I am based in the Northeast Woodlands bioregion, in the Northeast New England, you might call it. And as I wrote in the sidebar, I live at the headwaters of the Pequot River. Actually, it's called the Fenton River up here, and it flows into the Pequot River. And what I love is that we're collaborating with the two Pequot nations that are at the end of the river as it confluences into the Long Island Sound. And so that sense of connectedness really energizes me. So I'll pass it. I see that Claire just joined. So Claire, we're just doing brief intros of the conference Congress organizers. So over to you.
Okay, hey everyone, good to see you all here today. I'm Claire. I am one of the stewards of Hilo, and I'm also a land steward and a mother, and I tend land in the territories of the Sierra Miwok people in the Sierra Nevada mountains of Northern California. And my river is the American River, which is a really incredible river that I love. Um, and yeah, and I'm helping hold the ceremony circle, so you'll hear about that a little bit later. Yes, that is me.
Thanks. Those are all our organizers who are on the call today. But I also want to invite Jeff Parrott, one of our advisors, who's here. Jeff, you want to introduce yourself briefly?
Sure. My name's Jeff Parrott. I'm a citizen of planet Earth and kind of reside in lots of places right now. I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I run a private foundation here called the Rising Foundation. And when I heard about the Congress, I signed up. And so you'll hear more about my work in a bit.
Awesome. Thank you. And we would love to have everybody on the call introduce themselves, but just in the interest of keeping to a time frame that's, productive and reasonable for this purpose of the call, we just ask you to introduce yourselves in the chat with your bioregion and anything else you want us to know about you. And also, of course, in Hilo, it's a great place to get to know each other. So we're going to jump over to Carrie. You want to go for it?
Sure. So I will just give a very brief kind of summary overview of the Congress, and I'm going to assume that many of you already know what it is, but if you don't, the bioregional movement, I'll just first of all start by saying I'm a researcher in the field. I'm doing my PhD on the history of the movement, as well as being one of the organizers of this latest Congress, which the Congress process in itself hasn't happened in 17 years. And so this is much like a reboot, I would say, of a process that's already happened 10 times previously. But I also just want to say this is not a new idea. This is essentially, trying to grasp a way of human relationship with each other and the earth in the way that's more mutually beneficial than it is now. And since humans have lived, honestly, since time immemorial, or at least, they tried to the extent possible by listening to the land, because if you don't listen to the land, well, you're not going to survive very long, usually. So It's actually quite common sense. So what we're trying to do is, bring people together in a way that allows a lot of different subject matters to come together, people working on various place-based aspects to Congress as a verb. So not Congress in a bureaucratic sense, but Congress in a sense of really coming together to try to talk about our social relations and even recreate those. And by the way, we don't need permission to create those. I love David Graeber's book and David Wengrow on the dawn of everything. And like one of the three fundamental rights is a right to recreate our social relations. And when the current ones aren't working, we can do that. And it's a lot of work. Been a lot of work to organize this event so far, and we're excited about the interest. But it takes people coming together for this work to actually happen. So yeah, we appreciate your interest, and then I think I'll turn it back to Lily.
Thanks, Carrie. Yeah, the phrase Congress as a verb has been a real meditation for me as an organizer of this event. Just the participatory center, not just a participatory aspect, but the central idea of congressing. Any other organizers want to say anything about that before we move over to Jeff talking about contributionism?
Yeah, real quick. Yeah, I just want to emphasize that the past Congresses have been so co-created, and they left this incredible archive of documentation, the proceedings. They always published a hard copy journal about everything that happened at the past Congress, and that's the kind of thing that Carrie is diving into as a historian. But we can all learn from those. And one thing that I was really struck by reading past proceedings is that there was so much happening at each Congress, and it was clear that people were just stepping forward to offer things that really called to them and making it happen. So that's one way that this is very different from a conference. Like, yes, there's an organizing circle that's holding things, but we are not trying to be the sole decision makers. And we really want this to be something where everyone feels like there's space to offer what is yours to offer and ways to plug in ways that feel good to you. So, however, whatever calls to your care as you're hearing about this, we hope that you will lean in and participate in the spirit of the Congress.
And I'll just say one quick thing, piggybacking on Claire, just riffing on Jeff's notion of contributionism. I had the distinct honor of being able to interview Carol Sanford, as it turns out, very soon before she passed away. And one of the things that she mentioned was replacing the theory of expertise, which is that humans' value is due to some kind of expertise that we develop, to a theory of contribution, which is that every human being, in fact, every being on this earth, has a contribution to make, and that that's their value. So it's a kind of inherent or intrinsic value as compared to one that we earn or that we rank amongst each other. So that has really resonated with me, and I feel like it's helpful to as we think about contribution. So I'll leave it at that.
Awesome. Thanks. Thanks, Carrie, Claire, and Bill. All right, Jeff, do you want to talk about contributionism? Let me know if you want to, or any thoughts you have relevant. Do you want to
Yeah.
share any slides or anything, or?
Nope, I didn't put anything
Great.
together. I thought I would just share like how I got here. I will point out that contribute is a verb. And listening to all of you talk, I thought, maybe we should call it an uncongress. That it's being co-created in the theme of, unconferences. A bit about my background. I worked in tech for 35 years. I like to say I went from punch cards to the cloud. And in the 08, 09 financial crisis, I started asking some questions, and I was always a system engineer and building frameworks and looking at how do you enable people to be more self-governing. I'm a bit of an anarchist, and if you understand anarchy, it's consent-based. And so there's a lot of that language that's coming out in many areas. And so in 2013, I retired and started looking at social change. And in 2018, I founded the Rising Foundation. Our tagline is cooperating for a better tomorrow. And we were funding and still do fund who are the social innovators that are out there creating new systems. And you can go to therisingfoundation.org if you want to see some of the work that we've done with that over the last almost 10 years now. And when during COVID, I love David Graeber's work was brought up here. My favorite book of his is all time is Utopia of Rules on Technology, Stupidity, and the Secret Joys of Bureaucracies. And so I started navigating this world, and who said an economy should be a financial system? And most people, when they hear it, that's what they think of. And so I was sitting and thinking, well, what's a different formulation? What's a different mindset that we could take? And well, what if it was about meeting human needs? And where I've gotten to over the last almost year is, oh, this already exists. We call it philanthropy, right? And it's been captured by capitalism. And if you understand philanthrocapitalism, you know, um, we write a blog, contributionism.info, if you're interested in that. We publish things weekly. And so that's the path that I've started down. I have a North Star. I call it SLOPE, SLOPE, storytelling, learning, organizing, practicing, and exemplifying. And so when I discovered the Congress, it was like, this is where it's got to happen, right? It's a grassroots movement. We're consenting to this. Um, there is already an existing web of philanthropic organizations out there. And I think the Congress is demonstrating there's also a web of governance organizing groups out there. And so nature builds webs. And out of that, I think there's convenings that happen. We tend to build hierarchies, and that just replicates top-down command and control institutions. So I'm super excited about the Congress, and I guess Lily, maybe I'll just leave it at that. And there's lots of people can read, and maybe if people want to ask questions or if you want to interview, I'm open to whatever makes sense and where people's interests lie.
Thanks, Jeff. That's wonderful. And a good segue, I think, into a couple slides, bringing these concepts back into the practical of the Congress and the ways that we as organizers and advisors are now ready to facilitate your actual contributions,
Mhm.
right?
Can I add one thing here, Lily,
Yeah.
before you get into this? Because it just struck me. What we've shifted the conversation to, and I had this conversation with Carrie and Lily, is what are the needs, right? So if we move to a contributory conversation or economic framework, it revolves around needs. And when I look at needs, I said there's your needs, there's my needs, but there's an overarching needs as well, is what does the planet need? What does our community need? And those conversations are important to have as well. And I think that's kind of where Lily's going to go with this. So
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, yeah. And also needs in terms of what phase are we in, right? We're still very much in the building phase. When we get to the site, we'll be in a different type of building phase, and then we'll be in the kind of flowering phase of all coming together. But right now we're really um planning and gathering resources and building our community from afar. So I'm going to share just a couple of slides just to make it visually helpful. Let's see. I'm going to do it this way. Can you all see that? Looks okay? Okay, great. So this is our beautiful, beautiful turtle emblem. So we have mapped out just the start of 8 circles for our circles of contribution, our circles of need, our circles of areas where we want to focus. These circles are interconnecting and will birth more circles. You know, there are other things here that we could add. Documentation and media is something that we're talking about still kind of in the organizers bubble, but we will open it up to everybody pretty soon. Claire mentioned the proceedings earlier, and it's a big part of the Congress historically. But so we have these eight circles: programming, which is kind of like the agenda, the flow, the rhythm of the week together. Ceremony, as Claire mentioned as well. Accessibility. How do we get people there? How do we make people comfortable physically? But in all ways, accessibility. Arts, we have a wonderful arts council for Cascadia artists have already started doing some amazing work, and we're happy to expand that circle. Outreach and diversity, we want to make sure that we have people there represented, that this is Turtle Island, and hopefully, ideally, the Congress has everybody in Turtle Island represented, or as many people as possible. Financial support. We want to give as many scholarships away as possible. We want to support people to be able to travel to the Congress, to be able to take time off work, their childcare needs, all pay facilitators, give honoraria to folks who should get honoraria for their attendance and participation. And for that, we need financial support, right? Like that's just a real thing with any kind of event. Facilitation is another big one. The Congress is there are going to be many overlapping and intersecting conversations happening all the time. And we want to have mindful facilitation of all that, of the space overall, but also sub-facilitation. We want to be able to have mediation if needed, have just really hold it in a mindful way. And then wellness overall, we want to make sure connected to accessibility, connected to all these things, wellness, want to make sure that people feel okay, that they feel like they can have some place to go and rest if they need to rest, that their medical needs are, that they have what they need to be physically okay. Let's see. Any organizers or Jeff, any other advisors who are on the call? There might be other advisors who've joined by now. Any thoughts you have about these circles that you'd like to share? Or maybe there's additional circles that aren't listed here.
Looks great.
Okay.
I think one of the ones that I want to talk a little bit about is the financial support and, the conversation that you and Carrie and I had. And just in transparency, I am a financial supporter of the Congress. I believe it's really important to put your money where your mouth is. And I just want to say, as a philanthropist and as a person of wealth, I just want to like talk a little bit about how you have that conversation, right? Because it's an important one to have, and the best that I can maybe share and how it feels to be on this side is if you have ever met a famous person or someone that's very attractive, they get a lot of attention for what they have and not for who they are. And I think it's really important to, if this is something that you want to support and be a part of, and maybe someone that might fit into this, is to really just connect with them at a personal level and, talk about the Congress, share your passion about the Congress, and really lean into getting to know what are they excited about and, what their passion is, because the conversation will go completely differently if you find that intersection. I'll just share a negative experience that I've had. I was at an event last month, and there was just somebody that just was hounding me the whole time I was at this event, and I finally had to tell him, just go away, right? And so this is important, right? It is the kind of contribution that we need. We're living in this weird world right now where we're trying to build these new models, but we still have to live in these old ones. And so I'm happy to share anything personally. If you have somebody that you have in mind, see if they would support the Congress, please reach out to me. I'm happy to be a part of that. And like I said, Lily and Carrie and I have already had some of these conversations. So just wanted to add that.
Thanks, Jeff. Really appreciate you speaking to that. I think that with the financial piece, there are all kinds of power dynamics going on. And so it's just so helpful to have your contribution just in your story as well. But of
Yeah.
course, also your financial support has been really tremendous.
It can be an awkward conversation to have. I like to say, whether you have money or don't have money, you have a story around money. And
Yeah.
being really clear with that is helpful to,
Yeah. Yeah. And,
be,
and it's only one of some potentially touchy conversations or tender conversations that might be had at Congress, right? So it's good prep
yeah.
to think about communication um, in this space.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
I'm very cognizant around language. And, I didn't say this earlier, but the idea behind contributionism is it's relatable, it's inclusive, right? And here's how I can start the conversation with anyone. Yeah, I work in economics, but not in the financial system. I reframe economics around human needs, and I call that contributionism. And then I ask, are your needs being met? And right there, if somebody, pretty much everybody right now, I think, can say their needs aren't being met.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot. There's
Yeah.
a lot of
And
need.
and we need to have shared language,
Yeah.
right? There's a lot of people talking about this, but as an engineer that started, if you're a techie and you know what TCP/IP is, we wouldn't be having this conversation if it hadn't been developed because it's a standard that allows the internet to work. And we need to have these kind of common languages so that we can, all pull the rope in the same direction.
Okay. Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, I agree on all points. One last call for any other organizers overview thoughts about any of these circles, and then we'll move on to one final slide and then open it up.
Are we going to be talking about how we're going to activate
Yep.
and open these? Okay, perfect.
Next slide. Yeah. All right. So let me go back to this. How to get involved. So one of the easiest ways that we've figured out to connect with all of you guys is with Hilo, this wonderful connective online platform that Claire is a steward of. It's very easy to sign up for it. It's low impact. It's not going to ruin your email inbox or anything like that. Joining, you're not going to become a high-low addict. Um, and on the Turtle Island Bioregional Congress community page in Hilo, on the left-hand panel, there are these chats. And some of these chats have already been going for a while, but today I just added the rest of them for each of the circles that we've named. And like I said, we can add more. There can be more circles, sub-circles. And so this is a way to open up the conversation, to start the conversation between all of you and all of the other people who are coming to the Congress who are not on this call, and all of us. From here, we may move into some meetings, like live Zoom meetings of sub kind of creator circles. We're going to see how it goes and just kind of roll with it between now and September. But these channels on Hilo are going to be a really great resource for just sharing ideas and bringing things to the attention organizers and advisors who are on these committees. They're sort of like committee circles, if that makes sense. And then, of course, as we were talking about with the financial piece, that is a big piece, and not like the total central theme of this call at all. But if you want to invite your community to, maybe there's like a local organization who would want to sponsor a delegation from your community of like 3 or more people. You could talk to us about that, email us. We might be able to offer to get discounts for delegations, depending on our resources and availability. Some folks have also purchased donor or abundance level tickets that the abundance, the overage from that goes directly to sponsoring scholarships. So that's how to get involved right now, in terms of over the internet and over email and from a distance. Just one final thank you. And now I'd love to open it up. I want to start with any advisors who are on the call and might want to share any thoughts or questions, and then open it up to anybody. I'd love to hear from folks here about any thoughts about what we've presented, any ideas. And you can use the raise hand function. Oh, thanks, Bill, for putting some stuff in the chat. Hey, Claire Strawn. There's multiple Claires.
Yeah, there's 3 of us online.
Yeah.
So I want to know if under the program bullet point in the navigation, are there themes? Like I'm interested in the kind of development of I'm sorry, solidarity economy as it interacts with bioregionalism. And so that's like a really big theme, but I was wondering if there's someone who's organizing different themes.
That's great. That could be a channel, like a chat channel. We are going to have, it's also a programming conversation, I think, too.
Right. Well, I saw that would be under programming would be
Yeah.
a
Bill, do you
line.
want to
Yeah.
say anything about that?
Yeah. So, and Claire, I was actually just on that channel before this call. I saw your comment there, which is great. And just so as background, when we're looking at programming, there's sort of the Congress proceedings and kind of the flow of engagement together around that's sort of looking to culminate in a bioregional action plan, a continental scale bioregional action plan. So that's sort of one track, I would say, of programming. Another track is the kind of upskilling workshop side of things. And we're taking 2 approaches to that. One is that, we as organizers are looking at sort of what kinds of programming do we think, and are we hearing from you all, should be happening. And so we're certainly what you mentioned, solidarity economy, the relationship between economy, finance, and bioregionalism is on our radar screen. And we have some great people who are registered who, that's their forte. And at the same time, so we're looking to do some sort of identification of workshops beforehand, where we say, okay, this feels like a workshop that makes sense to offer. We're also going to have open space whereby, or unconferenced, those are the terms that people are sometimes familiar with, where it's more emergent, or you could come with an idea and self-organize a session around that. So that's just where our thinking is at right now. But as Lily mentioned up front, we're really wanting to have this be a co-creative process. And so that's what this call is primarily focused on, is getting a deeper sense of what the desires are for that kind of workshop side of things, and upskilling. So
What is the process then of taking a broad topic like regenerative economy and folding it into the strategic direction?
that actually would unfold as the Congress happened. So I mean, I guess I can go one layer deeper on this. So we have essentially for the sort of Congress deliberation track, if you will, we have morning sessions on Wednesday and Thursday that are devoted to small group deliberation. These are through the circles that pick up on the approach that was used in past Congresses. Thanks to Karen and Ken in particular for input on that. So small circle deliberation in the mornings, and then convergences where it's more of the full group in the evening. So essentially we have, and this picks up on the micro to macro comment that somebody made in the programming thread on high-low. So moving from small conversations to a full group conversation in a flow each day that then leads into Friday, where that's the primary day of the Congress deliberation. So that's a glance at how the sort of technology, the social technology that we're planning on for that, Claire. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, it is. Thank you.
Cool.
Ben.
Okay, I'm not sure if my video is working because I can't see it in the screen, but I have a couple of questions. One about programming specifically, and one more about some connections with other things. I actually have a few ideas for different structured contributions to the programming that would probably feel more like workshops or hopefully not like boring conference presentations, but something that it has quite a bit of structure to provide for a conversation to happen at the event. So I'm wondering, is there something in place already where we can start to like formally submit those ideas, or is it just strictly the forums on high-low right now? Or because it seems like September's not that far away. And I also I wonder about encouraging more people to participate in general in the Congress by having, sooner rather than later, a pretty cohesive structure and specific detail about which topics are going to be at which times, in parallel to the flexibility of all the circles, so that folks that do need to have a little bit more of that kind of structure would be more inclined to sign up early and find time to get plane tickets or whatever kind of cross-country, cross-continent travel they need. So that's the thought I had, and I'm happy to work within whatever channels are currently out there on high-low. I haven't spent a whole lot of time on high-low to help with that, but is this call right now a good time to actually start talking about specific ideas for programming, or is that later? And then I have one other question after that.
I want to defer to Bill as well on this one, and maybe even Carrie. But I don't know if this is the time to like drill down into specific programming like pitches kind of, but we are on the same page in terms of wanting to get things more solidified, also wanting to solidify what are the pre-programmed workshops going to be based on who's coming, right? So that's part of this process that we're starting. So one thing that you could do is post in the programming channel on high-low
I will, yeah.
your ideas, and you can make multiple posts if you have multiple ideas, and any contact, like a direct contact info, we can direct message on high-low as well. And organizers, programming circle people will be tracking that. There's so many amazing people who are going to be coming to this and could offer really amazing workshops. And there's also just the reality of time and space. But there are multiple sites at Camp Cedar Ridge where people could have larger and smaller meetings, workshops, whatever we want to call them. So there's going to be a lot of potential for connecting there, and we're just in terms of the programming circle trying to find a balance between sort of pre-scripted, preset scheduled events and those open spaces.
So is there right now somewhere within the high-low structure or documentations available a general idea of which days between the 15th and the end of the Congress are considered pre-Congress versus in Congress in terms of like
we'll release, Carrie just put in the chat, we'll be releasing more of the programming details and like the daily rhythm and agenda, or like the general schedule outline soon, but we
Yeah,
haven't.
we hear you, Ben. We know it's needed. It's coming very soon.
Yeah,
well, I mean, it's just because people who are trying to prepare to
totally.
actually facilitate things we're real close. Anyway, the other question I had is I know that there are a lot of people that are doing this. We are one of the groups that is going to be doing a confluence as part of the R3O parallel thing that's happening bioregionally. And I was curious to know how much overlap is there between TIBC and R3O, because there's also, I don't know how many different groups are going to be receiving confluence funding for doing local confluences through R3O.
I can,
or whatever early that is, and what are the general ideas of what is and isn't appropriate in terms of how some of that funding could be used to facilitate attendance at TIBC?
so I'm with R3.0, so I can take that question,
okay.
Ben. And I'll also reiterate Carrie's, love your enthusiasm. So if you want to drop ideas for programming into the chat right now, if you want to direct message me on chat, I'll also throw my email in here. So we're all ears, and we appreciate people's patience as we kind of do the chicken and egg thing of, we could have released our own version of what we thought the best program was a while ago, and we're choosing not to do that to honor the co-creation side of things. So, but to your specific question, since I'm on the organizing team, the organizing team has been working very sort of hand in glove with R3.0. So we did the scheduling of them specifically to piggyback on one another and not overlap. We considered early on actually having them at the same time and said, no, that actually doesn't make sense. The next layer is the confluences, as you mentioned, which we're in conversation. We've already sort of conceptually agreed that the confluences should play a role of feeding into the Congress, in particular as an outlet for, if folks can't make it to the Congress physically, that here is an opportunity for them to engage in person in their own setting. So that's, at least one element. And then another element is, as these confluences are convening, in the time leading up to the conference in Congress, and, on that week before the Congress, that there could be things that are fed into the Congress from these confluences. We haven't figured out a specific mechanism for that, but the opportunity exists to have a session that's devoted to Turtle Island confluences, giving sort of reflecting on what could happen to the Congress. So that's kind of where we're at right now. On the financial side of things, the deadline for registering a confluence just passed yesterday. We have about 70 confluences that signed up, so they will qualify for this a fair share of that funding. And the funding is meant to support those bioregional groups in whatever way they need to gather in person. So if you, as an autonomous group, decide, well, we're going to use our funds to travel to the Congress, so long as you attend as you meet in person and gather side by side with the conference, that's all we care about at R 3.0. How you spend the money in terms of advancing your bioregional priorities is up to you. I hope that's helpful.
No, that's very helpful. Thank you very much.
All right, Jeff, thanks for waiting.
No worries. Now I'm on the other side. I'm an attendee at the Congress, so I'm putting that hat on. And listening to what Bill said about experts, maybe we should call them inclusion ships as opposed to scholarships. Just to it's about inclusion. But the thing I wanted to suggest is, might it not be useful to have like a pre-conference, like a Zoom gathering, where people could come maybe a week, 2 weeks before the Congress and kind of address, hey, if there's workshops that are going to be happening, somebody does a little setup for the workshop, or, just a way to kind of, get to know each other, right? Because there's a way you can use Zoom where people can self-select breakout rooms. And, I always say at any event, all the real work happens in the hallways. And so, just a thought to maybe consider.
Yeah, we're definitely that's like overlapping between just like programming and kind of community building, but also accessibility in terms of also making the space available to somewhat to people who can't maybe physically attend the Congress, making these
Mhm.
conversations available before and after. We won't be able to live stream from the site because of technical and just difficulties.
Yep.
But yeah, we definitely plan on utilizing Hilo and having some meetings. And I agree, breakout rooms can be a really awesome tool on Zoom. We've even, I mean, I've for different orgs have used breakout room functions for just kind of casual
Yep.
party type settings,
Yep.
like to be able to have an experience on Zoom where it's not like this, where it's 20 people watching two people talk. It's actually three people having a conversation. So
Yep.
um yeah, we definitely but maybe we could do like a I don't know, like a community building or like channel to help co-organize something like that and plan it and get a date set and all that.
Yeah, I just did something in April with my foundation where we showcased some of the organizations that had received grants, and then afterwards we just created a space where people could mingle and go a little bit deeper into something. And I think we've talked about part of ceremony might be creating an altar or something that's shared. So making sure people get all the kind of the final logistics and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah. I just saw Brett Ann posted in the chat about a tea house. Yeah, we have a lot of ideas. If there's anything in particular, any kind of offer, like a not even if it's like if it's different from a workshop, it's more of a, hey, I want to come here and I have a skill. Like, hey, I'm a massage therapist and I could bring my massage chair and set up in the wellness space for an hour a day and I'd love to contribute that. Or, hey, I have a tea house set up that I bring to Burning Man and I'd love to bring it here, whatever, put it in the chat. Hey, Melanie, I see your hand.
Hi, for some reason I can't see how to raise my hand with Zoom like normal. But anyway, I just wanted to offer or throw out an idea that just I put in the chat about my research about essentially 9 patterns that are evidence-based that bioregions have to have in place in order to achieve resilience and sustainability and all the wonderful things that we're all shooting for. And one idea would be to have the circles in the event. Make sure we're covering all 9 patterns because we have to have all 9 patterns in order to be resilient. So I could just paste like a bullets of the 9 and just kind of food for thought. I'd love ultimately have it be make sure we're hitting all the 9. Otherwise, we're not going to hit the goal.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. And I think I posted, I'm just up here in Sonoma. I lived in Mill Valley for the
Okay. Yeah,
previously.
we should
We
meet
should
up.
connect. Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know if you know Sarah Moncada. She's on our advisory circle. She's, I think, in Fairfax, maybe.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll reach out to you after
Yeah.
then.
Yeah. Great. Any other thoughts? We have just about 10 minutes left till the hour. Or you can also just share like a vision for what you'd like to experience there. Yes, I love this poster pavilion. Yeah, we've definitely talked about that. Bruce.
Sorry, it took me a minute to get to the mic. Oh, I mean, I did have an idea for like a co-creative activity. I've been an artist for 30 years with creating public art. So I'm basically in the process of translating my place-based, it'd be the public outreach part of my work, into a bioregional regenerative, and that's called Clay Nest Web. So it's a storytelling framework, but just offering that up. But it sounds like the best place to go is to the Hilo site.
Yeah.
To pursue that.
Yeah, to continue the conversation beyond just this Zoom call for sure. That'd be great. We'd love to hear more. Shanae.
Hi, everybody. I hope you can hear me. I'm on my hotspot. I'm with Turtle Island Community Capital. Alex referred me to this group. He's passing the baton to me.
Awesome.
So I'm sort of learning and just listening. But what's coming up for me is I think my question would be, because I'm very new to this space, do you all do any sort of land acknowledgement or include like the local tribal community that's there? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, great.
definitely. Claire, do you want to say anything about that?
Yes. We are engaged in a journey to establish and grow relationships with the various confederated tribes that are present in the area around where the Congress is being held. That includes the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde and the Confederated Tribes of Siletz. And so we've made our outreaches and conversations are happening there, and we'll see what is the appropriate way for those people from those communities to participate in the Congress, but they're definitely going to be invited and welcome. We are in the process of bringing on our Indigenous Relations Coordinator, which is really exciting. So you'll be hearing a lot more about our Indigenous programming as that takes off. And as far as land acknowledgement, I think our goal is to go really far beyond land acknowledgement when it comes to how we are in relationship with the land, the ancestral stewards of the land in the more than human world. And for folks that are interested in topics like that, you can join me in the ceremony circle, and we're going to talk about it a lot. But yes, tending the sacred has always been a really important part of the Congress, and it will be an important part of this Congress.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yes.
And Claire, I see your hand again. Claire Strawn.
Yeah, I was part of.
Oh, looks like you got muted somehow. There we go.
I went to the Global Earth Repair in Port Townsend earlier this year, and they have gathered a lot of wisdom about collaborating with the indigenous leaders and communities that I hope you can tap into them. I know Skeeter was involved in that and other, but it was really intense and really valuable. So yeah, great.
Yes, we're aware and we're making those connections for sure. Thanks, Claire. All right, any final thoughts? Josh.
Yeah, thanks. I'm just wondering if you have a timeline in mind to have either people's roles like communicated and clarified of how we can be supportive or program ideas. Like, is there some kind of deadline that you need or hope to have things clarified by?
Not exactly because it's this kind of co-creative process. It's it's emergent and so it doesn't fit into that kind of framework exactly, but we to reference, Ben's question earlier about, kind of releasing an agenda and a schedule and how helpful that can be. We do want to do that soon as much as possible. And it might shift as well before the event, but
Can
soon.
I say something on that, Lily?
Yeah.
Because we had a conversation, and I think we can still stick to this timeline that we're really shooting for like the middle of June to at least have like how the days are going to flow mapped out. And then within like the workshop and open spaces, those are the ones that'll be even more fine-tuned from there. And some of that has to do with it's built around who attends. So we're going to take our attendees that we already have and begin shaping some workshop sessions based on who's actually coming. And then we'll have plenty of time for open space. And honestly, there's infinite spaces where people could meet on the property. It's pretty large. It's like 32 acres. And so there'll be that's kind of the catch-all for all the things that could be happening that may not make it onto like the formalized schedule. But I would say in the next 2 weeks we'll be releasing at least the major blocks of how the days are going to flow, so you'll understand more about what you're stepping into. And we do realize that everybody wants to know the programming, and we've done a lot of work on it. And yeah, there's more info coming very soon.
Thanks, Josh. Penny.
Hi. So I have a question. What's the kind of the mega outcome of this Congress that you would like to see happen? What's the goal of the whole event?
World domination.
Lily, you're not supposed to say that on.
Oh, sorry, I forgot we're recording.
No, I mean, in terms of as a designer, I think about, well,
yeah,
my brain goes in many places and it's kind of like, well, what do you want?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. It's a really important question. I think that among those of us on the organizing circle who are rebooting this amazing tradition that has existed for decades, or at least I'll speak for myself, but I would like to see this movement grow stronger, more coherent, and more operationalized. So taking all of these beautiful ideas, which can sometimes be a little abstract, and grounding it all in a way where we are more united as a movement and have a clear path to move forward together. So the relationship building is in of itself a very important piece. The skill sharing, presentations, that's a very important piece. But then if we want to have our outcomes that we point to, those are twofold. And one of them is the bioregional action plan that has been mentioned. And that is the goal of our Congress deliberation sessions throughout the event. Our goal and our project, all of us together, will be to collectively sense make what are the most important things we need to be doing in our home places. What are some of the tactics we can be adopting? So maybe we'll come out of it with a list of 10 categories, and it's like Earth law. Let's all go do rights of nature in our home place, that type of thing. And then this toolkit will be accompanied by a community of people who are doing it together, and we can be supporting each other on our journeys in parallel. Even though we're across a whole continent, we can be more successful if we work together. Yes, hello. And the last piece I wanted to mention is the educational piece, because we hope that a lot of educational content will come out of the learning portions of this. And we hope to record and make it accessible for all the people that couldn't attend in person, so that everyone across the movement, across the continent and beyond, can be learning alongside those of us who are there in person and then taking action. And we're going to keep using the high-low group after the Congress. We're using it beforehand. We're going to use it after. Lots of local groups are organizing on high-low. So that will be a place where we can continue the conversation long into the future as we work on these goals together.
Have you thought about doing like a design charrette type of process? And when I say that, there's different kinds of design charrettes. There's the architectural style. I'm not talking about that one. There's another one that's kind of a prioritization process that gets, helps harvest the creative intelligence of the group. Do you know that? And just, it's where you design a series of very pointed questions, and then kind of say what their thoughts are, and then you kind of siphon them down to what are the 5 ones that everybody pretty much agrees on. Do you know?
Yeah, I love that. And I went to architecture school and I stood up for many charrettes, and it is quite a process.
Yeah, I'm not talking about. Sure.
Yeah, well, I just want to say, and also because I know we're at our time, the facilitation of these collaborative, deliberative sessions will be quite an undertaking, as anyone in the facilitation space knows. Facilitating a large group to have these types of conversations is no easy feat. That is part of the programming circle, and there will be a facilitation circle kind of within that. So, Penny, I really want to invite you to take your ideas to the programming circle, and then you can be a part of the conversation that is unfolding around, how will we gather as potentially 300 people and come up with a coherent plan together? I believe we can do it. And those types of questions you're asking are really important in figuring out how we have those conversations.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big thing. Like, how do you, because there's probably, I'm imagining it, a couple hundred people coming at least. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have organized those kinds of charrettes, and it takes a lot. It's a huge thing. So that might not even be for this one, but it might be the next one. I don't know. But anyway,
Well, we're going to try.
I'll bring it to the circle.
Thank you. We need you.
Thanks, Penny. Yeah, there is actually a separate facilitation channel if you want to, just because I know that that's going to be like, it's a whole nother deep dive conversation. I made 2 separate channels. So there's programming and then there's also facilitation. This might be a good one to put right in that facilitation channel on high-low. All right, and we are at time, slightly over. Thank you all so much for coming and contributing to this space, and just your energy and your excitement for the Congress. It's really amazing, and it's just so wonderful to connect with you all across time and space and Zoom. And I hope that we can meet in person in September in Vernonia, Oregon. Thanks, everybody. See you on high-low.
Thanks for facilitating, Lily.
Yeah, no problem.
And thanks, Jeff, for your contributions.
Yeah.
Pun intended.